first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate everybody who's always here watching our show, sharing the segments, and if you do so, you know on Thursdays, 1:30 p.m., this is when we're joined by Eric Goranson from Around the House Northwest. Always good to have Eric on here. We're going to get a preview of this week's episode, a little bit of what's coming up, but also Eric always comes with tips and tricks and advice and ideas for so many different things. I think last week we did Father's Day gifts?
Yeah, Father's Day gifts.
Really cool gifts.
Some fun stuff there, for sure.
Great ideas, and it doesn't matter whether if Father's Day's already passed. I would definitely recommend checking that out for some really cool toys and things that you can utilize. Yeah.
Birthday gifts coming up, Dad, whatever. Go back and check that one out for sure.
Cool. I definitely want the measuring tape that you had. But that's last week's episode. You can check that out on the website or on the app. But today we're talking about, I mean, it is nice weather outside.
It is.
Watching live, it's going to be like 89 degrees today.
Yeah.
Everybody's wanting to get outside and probably thinking about those outside projects.
Absolutely. And so I got some painting tips for you today. And these are really important because, you know, there's a lot of things you can do that can really mess up the job. And they're just little ones that you go, if I'd only done this first, I could have saved a bunch of money and time.
Yeah.
So the first one is one of the most important ones, and it's that paint prep. It's the stuff everybody hates, right?
Right. Because
you have to get out there, you got to scrape everything down outside, you got to caulk it. But doing that is really where you get that beautiful job.
Yeah.
You know, great example with caulking when you're out there. There's a product I like to use. You can get it at like Lowe's and a few other paint stores. It's called Big Stretch.
Okay.
So it's a caulking that stretches way more than anybody else. It's a latex caulk, so you can use water cleanup. It's really easy to work with, but it stretches so much. You can put it in there, and you know when that caulking dries out, it splits and comes apart, it just loses the stretch. This stuff is like elastomeric, so it really stretches.
Nice.
So when we get into the winter time, it'll shrink up, and summertime right now, it'll swell up, and that's what really gets that caulking to fail. So you can caulk around all the cracks, joints, everything, and then when you prime and paint, going to be looking good, and it's going to last a lot longer. So it's not something you'll be doing every year, every couple of years. You can usually wait 5 to 7 before you have to go deal with it again if you did it right.
That's good. Yeah, anything that I don't have to touch for a long time afterward.
Yeah, totally.
That's always
totally. And the next one here too is on that prep. You know, when you paint, that paint doesn't really cover up your mistakes.
Yeah.
And then that other stuff. So if you've got loose paint or you've got other stuff, make sure you get that cleaned up. Otherwise, it's just going to look like you painted over a hot mess.
Yeah.
Now, there are some primers, and let's talk about primers because this is a really big deal. There's not just one primer out there anymore. There's like 10 of them when you walk into the paint store. So the cool thing that you can do is, for instance, take a look and see what the project is. If you're changing from a bright color into maybe a white or something, you're worried about something bleeding through. If you had the yellow house, you're going to paint white, or you had some red door that you're going to paint, make sure and use a sealing and an adhesion primer on there. Because what those will do is that'll capture that in. Or if you've got like brand new cedar that you just did some repairs with, that stuff loves to bleed through primers. So a couple coats of primer on there, and never use the primer and paint as one as a primer.
Okay.
It's a great marketing thing. You know, it will cover up a little bit better, but it'll never take the place of regular primer.
So don't skimp on that, and don't skip that step.
Don't skip, And primer's usually cheaper than the good paint.
Yeah.
So that's a key right there. And the other thing to do here too is if you've got places like, let's say it's an old house, first thing you need to do before you do any of the paint prep, check for lead paint.
Yeah.
Before 1978, if you've got stuff coming off, go out, you can go down to your paint store, home improvement store, anywhere that sells paint, they've got these test sticks that you can just rub on there. And if it turns red, you got a lead paint problem, and now you've got to deal with kind of what the state and EPA guidelines are.
Oof.
So that can be very expensive. When I was living in Seattle 15 years ago, somebody had came through there right when they kind of came up with the lead paint rules. They had pressure washed their house, got the big chips of paint everywhere, and that was a very expensive cleanup. They had to come in and dig up the soil around theirs and the neighbor's yard, haul it off, and you got lead paint all contaminating the ground. So it can be a big deal and a big fine.
Yikes.
So that's one you don't want to make sure you fall into that trap. So lead paint is really applied before 1978. So if you've got a house built in 1980, you're good. But if you've got a house built in 77, test that stuff, especially if it's chipping and peeling off.
Yeah, okay, that's really good to know. All right.
And if you've got that peeling paint, they do make primers too that are extra thick. So you can prime over those areas after you've kind of sanded them and cleaned them up. That'll kind of fill in those areas a little bit, so it'll add some meat to it. then you can paint over the top.
Okay, but you got to get that paint off first.
Got to get the paint off. If it's loose, then you want to make sure you get that all dealt with. And many times, if you've got paint coming off, you had either two things happen. One, you've got water getting behind it, which is a big deal. Check for that. And number two, it could be just somebody missed that primer step before.
Yeah.
And just went over the top and, what I call a blow and go, where they just come through and just paint everything and walk away and, the one-day paint job.
Yeah. Okay. This is all really good advice, things that everybody should be paying attention to.
Yeah.
So, all right, great. What else should...
Another one in too is when you're going out to get paint, the biggest expensive mistake you can buy is buying cheap paint.
Yeah.
Because it never pays off. Here's the thing. You go, okay, I'm going to buy the cheap. Every store has their cheap paint, whatever that is. It could be the paint store, it could be the home center, whatever you're looking at. The problem is that doesn't cover as well or last as long.
Okay.
So many times if you go out and say, okay, I'm going to save $15 a gallon and buy this cheap paint, you might need 2 gallons to 1.
So you end up...
twice the painting.
Yeah.
And using more money in the end.
Yeah.
Because you're like, wow, I got to put 3 coats on this instead of 1?
But I saved $15 on...
Exactly. So the biggest mistake you can make is going cheap paint. Now, you don't have to go out and buy the $100 gallon stuff, but if you're getting up into their mid to upper stuff, it's going to really help you out, and it's going to last a long time.
Okay. Yep.
So it's that durability thing.
Yeah, it's worth spending a little bit extra just to do it right. And do it right, and going back to the beginning, what you said, like, if I do this, I don't want to have to touch this for a long time.
Oh, no. No, not at all.
So...
And another thing, too, is it's worthwhile to rent a sprayer. If you're doing the outside of the house, it'll save you a lot of time, but after you spray it, you want to back roll it. So as it's still wet, if you're getting out there and you rented that nice Graco sprayer from your paint store or your home improvement center, you want to have a roller and have somebody come right behind it and really pushing that in.
Yeah.
That's going to give it an equal sheen on it, as well as really giving that good adhesion into that. So it's really going to make it bite. It'll make it last longer as well. So make sure and have somebody back rolling it when it's wet. You'll have a much better job with that.
All right. Great advice.
Yeah, those are some of them right there. And then, just take the time on the masking. It takes way much longer time to sit there and you get in a hurry. You're like, I just want to get paint on this, but cleaning up that paint off of everything that you didn't mask. Yeah. Be careful.
I've made that mistake.
Oh, I think we all have.
Yeah.
I did on my house.
I'm like, it's fine.
Close enough, and you're like.
Hit the other side, and then I always hit the other side.
You will. Yeah. You will. So get the cars away, get the decks covered, all that stuff. Cheap plastic is cheap plastic. You can put it down, tape it off, and throw it away when you're done and be done with it. If you're doing a lot of painting, maybe it's worthwhile getting a tarp, spend a little bit more money on that. But those are some good tips right there for people.
All right, fantastic. So again, extra every week with different tips and tricks for a lot of different things, but we also have this week's episode of Around the House Northwest.
Yeah.
Which we get a little bit of a preview for. So what do we have?
We got a fun one this week. So I'm going to show you guys how to build outdoor kitchen cabinetry for that outdoor kitchen.
Ooh, nice.
So what we do is we basically take plywood and 2x4s. And I think we got a clip on that. Go through and build that up. So it's really fun. I mean, I just went down to Conrad Lumber, picked up some 2x4s and some plywood, built the box itself, and went through this, which turned out really cool. And then I decided, I want this to look good because I've got a nice big built-in natural gas grill going in there. And of course, I've got some different cabinet doors that are stainless steel. So I actually did a fake stone on there by Evolve Stone, which you could actually sit there and nail on. So it's looks just like limestone, but I can cut it with a saw and nail it onto the finish nailer.
That's cool.
No mortar needed, no mason needed.
It looks like it's,
Yeah, it's awesome that way.
So nice.
So went through and built this out, and then show you how to take it that far. So it's a pretty cool weekend type project for that. And then we get that far this week, and then next week we're going to go and build the countertops. So that'll be pretty fun as well. So a lot to build in it, but the biggest thing with this, and I say it in the piece, and it's something just, you got to really plan it out even before you buy your stuff, because you got to know your countertop thickness, and when you're stacking like doors and a grill that's built in and all this stuff, this is as much planning as a kitchen would be. So you really have to know everything down to 1/8 of an inch to make sure it fits.
Okay, yeah,
So,
because then again, you don't want to be halfway through it and then be like, oh.
No, and I had to build it way different than I thought I was going to, because, like a grill, when you put the grill lid up, it goes back. Well, I have a raised bar top back there.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to add 6 inches to the depth to make sure that opened,
doesn't
hit the back of the bar and not open up all the way. So there's a lot of little gotchas with this, but we
Yeah.
cover that in the segment. So.
That's great. And again, with this, there's so many different segments and that come out for each episode.
Yeah.
You're like covering so many different things.
Yeah, another one we did too, it's kind of fun. You know, you've got that, maybe you've got a walkway or something out in front of your house, and there's that little strip out there that's the kind of the right of way. It's kind of yours, but not. It's kind of the cities or the counties or not. So I show you how to navigate that and how to clean it up and follow the rules. I literally had to get on about 3 different phone calls with the city to make sure that I wasn't stepping on somebody because, yeah, it's kind of mine to maintain, but it's not mine to maintain, and you got to really follow the rules of what to do. So I talk about that and show you some tricks and tips on that.
Yeah, that's good. That's confusing to me too, because I have some trees that are on there that I think are the city's trees, but do I have to trim them or?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. So what could be I mean, literally, if one side of the street is not city, that could be different. Your neighbors across the street could be different than what the rules on your side because who's got that right away.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. So that's good advice, though, learning how to navigate that, or at least.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. I was surprised. I started making phone calls. I'm like, oh. And they were shocked that I was even calling them, so that was the fun part. So they had no idea, they're like, oh, you're asking, versus just somebody cowboying it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, we've got a lot coming up this week. This is an absolute jam-packed show, and we've even got some new countertop trends. Cool. We talked to a company, Alex Houses. They make a lot of the different quartz and granite and, the porcelain countertops out there. So we talk kind of what the new countertop trends are if you're thinking about doing a bathroom, shower, kitchen. So we've got some good reviews there, as well as we're going to be testing out some new tools too.
Oh, heck yeah. And this is all just, that's just a small part of
Absolutely.
Episode. As you mentioned,
Absolutely.
every episode is. And just to remind everybody of when, where, and how they can watch.
If you missed last week's show, don't worry, you can catch it tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Fox 12 Plus, actually 8 a.m. Fox 12 Plus. 10 o'clock on Saturday is the brand new show. So set your DVRs, 10 a.m. Fox 12 Plus. And of course, it'll replay at 6 p.m. on Sunday and back again on Friday morning at 8.
There we go. And you can check out all that too at kptv.com or the Fox 12 YouTube channel or the Fox 12 app. Couple of programming notes real quick. Just there isn't going to be there is not a 4, 5, 6 o'clock regular news today as far as what you watch on Channel 12, but we do have a live streaming news at 5 p.m. So make sure to make a note of that. And for Fox 12 Now, coming up here in about 15 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking to the World Elk Calling Champion.
Get out.
Yes.
That's cool.
From Oregon, from Vernonia. So an Oregon winner of the World Elk Calling Championships. I have video of it. You will want to see this and hear what is going on there. We're going to talk to him all about it. So that's coming up at 2 p.m. So whatever platform you're on right now, you can just jump right back on here. And like I said, just like a few minutes and watch it live. Or if you're watching this afterward, well, go watch it in those places we just told you to. So lots of places to find the show. Eric, thanks a lot.
Thanks, brother.
And thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.